And now we're back. Okay. So, we're talking about the next thing on my list. That's what we're doing.
We were talking about signatures.
So it's important to understand there are certain vibrations that we call signatures that people have to act. It's certain meta-programs, certain personalities, characteristics, and archetypes of behavior. Okay. Now, again, it's very important to understand the knowing. This person knowing their hells, it makes them stronger. So the hells, they found value from having the hells, but by having the values of their hells, it only keeps the hells there because you can't be strong without them. And then I would also tell you that you need to heal that it makes me stronger. We can say we learn from it, but it doesn't matter how we say it as much as how is it programmed in the physical body. And that's where we would muscle test and look a little deeper and really decide how we want to disconnect how we know it. This person says that no one cares. And literally look at that. You know, there's a certain point that this person says this, so there had to be a point when he was this person, he or she was little, literally has a program where no one cares. And chances are it's probably found in the small intestine that there's unrequited love, meaning it doesn't matter how much love I give, I'm not going to get it back.
Right.
Okay? Again, it's pointed out that it's done to them, and people enjoy hurting them. These are all, you know, like this last one, people enjoy hurting me. Even though people enjoy hurting me, I deeply and completely love, accept, and forgive myself. Healing tools are very, very important. This person said, even though I mentioned that I don't like those type, I don't like you, I don't have time for you, that's really, you've had enough. That is your sign to you that says, yeah, it's your breaking point, and I don't want to do it anymore. Now, normally people have to get up, walk away, be mean, but it didn't take care of the attraction factor. It's still in your foundation. And you literally said, I don't want to tolerate it anymore. So the moment it starts to pop up, you're like, okay, I can't tolerate it, and you can stomp all over people, or you can act that way, or do what you need to do, suppress it, withhold it. Those are all unhealthy ways for your body. I would tell you that we probably have to go back to the gallbladder meridian to some degree, because it's first resentment to bitterness to intolerance. Literally, that gets stuck in that resentment line. But it's all about how you know. Pay attention. You know your world this way. Guess what? We can change it. And all it's doing is resolving the chemical peptides, the way you create your reality every day, so you don't have to recreate those thought patterns, and literally files away those hells so that they're resolved. I know I'd rather have you show up. Okay, I don't know why I put that there. Family bonds get broken because of what someone has. Okay, so cut and dry my way of how I'd rather have you show up. So this person was explaining, I want you to show up no other way but this. Well, that sounds like a demand. We were talking about that.
Right, because you can demand, command, and there's a third one.
Yes, there is a third one.
The energy where commanding the room, you're not demanding it, but...
No, but you're intentionally saying this is what it is.
Right, and that's I think that's a positive one.
It is a positive one. Demanding is when you're sitting there and you're trying to force it to happen. And when you're demanding, then what happens is you have to have backlash with it, because what you're doing is you're pulling and tugging and pushing this energy that instead of having it flow, you're forcing and doing things.
Right, I'm thinking of like performers on stage. If they were to demand their audience to show up a certain way, how successful would they be?
Right.
You know, I'm going to demand that you do this, this, and this as an audience, rather than as an audience member, as opposed to commanding the energy of just being in your authenticity and doing your thing and that kind of thing. You're commanding the energy, but it's just, it flows.
Well, it's like when you walk into a room, you're commanding the energy. I mean, I'm a teacher, and so I come in, there is a set standard of who I am. Now, for Octarine that's listening, Kimberly asked you a question in the chat room, and I know seeing black on white hurts your eyes, but I'll just read it to you, Mrs. Octarine. Isn't there some kind of planetary alignment going on tonight? And hopefully Octarine can remind, but I think there 3 are lining up.
Yep.
But hopefully Octarine will be able to get on there. So when, again, they would say, okay, you know what? Why don't you just ask me if I'm okay? Now, apparently there happened to be some family issues or whatever, because it says, because of your big mouth, you have actually caused ruining my reputation, family bond issues, now nobody wants me. And so there's all of this happening. And there's a part of a sabotage that's going on. Whoops, I didn't mean to dig you.
Speaking of sabotage.
Yeah, but there's a sabotage going on, and somewhere along the way, you didn't want to be present somewhere, and that's what we would look at. But with all of this stuff that's happening, it can lead you to want to do revenge, because you can't make it stop.
That's right.
And the only way that you can make it stop is if you did it back to them so that you can feel better. Isn't that how some revenge goes?
That's how most of it goes, I think.
In most men's world, what happens?
You get even, you call it good.
You get even and call it good. It's like when there's enough fighting going on, men will go out and beat the crap out of each other, and then they're done.
Right, there's,
Yeah,
they don't
yeah.
stew and
They come to
simmer.
an agreement.
Yeah, and seeing that's, you know,
There's no stewing about it.
but revenge, wanting any revenge, or stewing about it can lead to being poisoned. Meaning, I took poison and hoping that you die. That doesn't help. It really doesn't. But this makes a person have to explain, because there's no other way to defend themselves. They want to justify their world. And this is part of their soul that really is trying to get their attention to resolve it. Now, how we really can do this is if we had taken, and I'm just going to take the energy off that email, and one of the things that come up is feel self-doubt, low self-esteem, and poor self-concept. That can be one of the triggers that would create an experience like this one, creating people to become in your world and treat you like crap. Believe I'm supposed to be poor. Well, maybe they believe that they're supposed to be a victim to poor or in this manner. And so then, if that's sitting in the field, then it can actually cause a detraction factor of people coming in. A distorted sense of responsibility, concern more for others than self. Well, in the position of who it is that you're supposed to be, especially let's say you were brought up in the army, that you're supposed to put the army, or supposed to put the country first, government next, or government first, country next, whatever it is, then you're probably going to be walking around thinking that other people are more important than you, or concerned for others more than you. And so it keeps one from looking too closely at self and their own problems. And if that's the case, then that goes back to when they were younger, and what couldn't they look at? What problem couldn't they look at? What was, oh great, no, there, nope. Oh, Scotty,
Yes.
I might have to have you go on my desk and see if my one little paper's there, because how did it get lost?
I found it.
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, tell her what you're looking for while I go look for my
So
thing.
what I found, so Kimberly was asking about a
Looking for
planetary alignment. So I found on Facebook the meme that I posted a while ago, actually. It's
Thank you.
Mercury, Venus, and Saturn that are supposed to line up over the pyramids.
Oh, yes, I
And
read about
and
that.
it happens once in 2,737 years. And it's supposed to happen
Today, December 3rd?
December 3rd.
Oh,
So that's what's supposed to be happening. That's what I.
interesting.
Did I say alignment? I meant yes, alignment. You meet alignment. I love chat rooms.
Yes.
They're funny.
Okay.
But
So that's, at least now we understand that this is all about alignment. If you think about it, anytime our soul is trying to help us, it is help us to be in line with its true nature of its identity, which is the higher self. That it's a soul first, or spirit with a soul is a recorder, but that's what it is, and it is wanting to come into that higher alignment. So it's interesting how those pyramids of that energy is in coming in alignment, because we're coming to the peak point of coming to the mind, body, spirit, coming to the body, mind, and soul. However you want to look at it, there is an alignment that needs to take place. I've noticed with this energy that's coming in, If you had any back problems, it's going to enhance it. Or your muscles are not going to be able to hold your adjustments. That's just one of the things that I've noticed about this energy. And it's not meant to hold the old adjustment. Even if you go into the doctor's office and the chiropractor adjust you and you're in alignment, you will probably go back to the old way of sitting or acting or being, because your body is asking you to get rid of the habitual moment. And that has nothing to do with the mind, as well as has nothing to do with the heart. Because the heart, the torus of the heart, the energy of the heart wants to expand, and it can't do so if it's holding all these old programs that habitually say, this is the way you're supposed to sit, this is the way you're supposed to act, this is the way you're supposed to be. And the body will tell the brain, no, 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 this is what we have to do. So it is saying that we don't want to support the trapped emotions or all of that stuff that sits into the body.
And Aunt Corinne said we're in a period of big cosmic events for the next few weeks.
Alrighty
Wow.
then. So that'll be interesting. Pay attention to everything around you and not to get too caught up, but understand this is all about growing forward. And I said growing forward because most people think that the end of the world's coming, and the Mayan calendar is just, it's time to recreate a Mayan calendar. It's just that next shift in the consciousness.
It's moving, I can't remember the two different states, but moving from one to the other, about moving from selfishness into brotherhood or sisterhood.
It's the unity.
And coming into that. So it is the end of the world as you know it. And I've been reflecting on that today, going, oh my gosh, it is the end of the world as I know it, because I'm getting rid of some really deep core things that have been those habits for me.
Yeah, you even went into labyrinth in order to release stuff.
Yep.
Now, as the end of the world as we know it, now Swedenborg talks about two states of mind, and he says that's basically all there is. And that's funny how he talks about that just like I do. I say there's a human mindset and there's a spiritual mindset, and he talks about it being in heaven and hell, correct?
Well, there's heaven and hell, but you're either in your natural self or you're in your spiritual self.
So it's almost similar.
Yes.
I think that's just how interesting how I knew nothing about Swedenborg and how that information was to come through. And so we are meant to be together.
I need a big cosmic event.
Well, sometimes people need those in order to shift.
Right, to shake the world.
Right, but it all depends on how you're bringing it in.
Mm-hmm. And it's
Going back.
Well, I was
Okay.
going to say, so yesterday was Sunday, so I had a worship service, and it's the first Sunday of Advent, and that theme is, wait for it, hope. Hope is the first week of Advent, because
I love hope.
you're hoping. We need the Messiah was supposed to come forward, so there is that hope. So then what happens is that the Bible passages that get read are often, they're from the prophets. It's that prophetic voice talking about the calamities, the end of the world, the apocalypse, and that kind of thing, that's in line with the birth of Jesus. So you hear these apocalyptic messages at the same time. We're supposed to be thinking about little baby Jesus. So in our theology, well, yesterday it was specifically about the earthquakes and what's happening on the planet and the end of the world and that kind of thing in our theology, because everything means something. There's a spiritual correspondence to everything in the Bible, or the inner sense that needs to be revealed. And earth, or terra, or the firmament, well no, the firmament's different, but anyway, the earth itself is our consciousness. It's our conscious state of being, it's our thinking, it's how, so the whole creation story is about the development of our consciousness and about our spiritual life and our interaction with our consciousness and our spiritual life and bridging them together. So then, when you get into the time of when Christ enters into the scenario, things have gotten really bad, and so you do hear these messages of earthquakes, because it is time to shake up that consciousness. If that Christ consciousness is supposed to come forward, it may need that kind of event for it to happen.
If you are already in a healthier alignment with your soul, you may not need the dramaticness of the earth to change its consciousness for you. That's why in certain parts of the planet you're not in an earthquake zone, or you're not into certain spaces, because It depends on where you are, because the more real you need it, or the more foundation needs to be changed, it can be a very big cosmic event to the point where it can be disastrous and catastrophic right before your eyes.
The other image that I was actually going to use for the children's message was about seed germination, about what happens with the seed, you know, like a little pumpkin seed or whatever seed that you put in the ground, and it has to break open in order for that little plant to come up above the ground.
Yes.
But if you're an ant in that ground, it probably feels like an earthquake when that seed, when that layer is coming off.
Never thought of
Pops
that.
open, yeah.
When it pops open with that seed, you know, the ant's going, but this was my home, you know, but for us, we're like, oh man, I really hope that little pumpkin seed grows, you know, so it really is all about that perspective.
Definitely. That's a very good one. I like that very, very much. I think that's great.
Because it is about those seeds of consciousness that need to come to light.
But, and not talking about more consciousness, what needs to be changed on a earth level is your physical body, because that's your earth, that's your vessel, that's your home. And if the, I want to put it, the pains, the aches, the depression, you know, it's not just emotion, because people have physical bad experiences, and those too is the consciousness awareness. And like I said, I agree with Swedenborg that everything has meaning. This represents life as. And when we come back after this small break, we're going to talk about what chronic pain represents. What do scars and shock and anxiety and all this, what does this represent life as? They're not just emotions, they have a story. We'll be back. And now we're back, and we love to break up what we talk about with some great interesting stories so that you can have a great laugh later. And we have another one from our very own Jen Toffel, and you would love to share this. Hopefully she can get through without busting a gut. So,
Okay, so I went to theological school in Berkeley, California. Maybe you've heard a few things about Berkeley, California. It's an interesting corner of the world. One of my good friends grew up Catholic and loves the what they call the Eucharist, which in Protestant world, which I grew up in, we call it communion. It's the Holy Supper. So he was always looking for interesting places around Berkeley to go have communion, to go have Holy Supper. So he found this interesting sect of Catholicism. I couldn't even tell you what the name of it was. He would know. But anyway, so we went to this temple in Berkeley known as somebody's house. And so it was, oh my gosh, these experiences that I've had on this planet are hilarious. Okay, so we get out of the car and we're all thinking like, oh my God, we're all sticking to the plan. We're all sticking to the plan. Don't leave me alone by myself with anybody in this house. Please, God. So there were like 5 of us or whatever that we all march ourselves in. And there's these different, you know, the temple itself was basically, they took a living room and they didn't have furniture. They just put pillows all around it. But anyway, but we couldn't go in the temple right away. We were in the waiting room. If you've ever seen the movie Beetlejuice, and there's the waiting room for hell, and there's a blue, I think she's a blue lady with the weird hair. They all go sit over there or something like that. But that's what it felt like in this way. We're sitting there going, okay, we're going to be, what else is going to show up? So then they take this offering, and somehow we did that, and then they took names or whatever, and that whoever, you know, we get our name pulled and we get a prize. Okay, so that's awesome. Yay, we're going to get a prize. Guess what they were giving away? Copies of Emanuel Swedenborg's Divine Love and Wisdom. Go figure. Out of all the days that we show up, somebody gets a book of Swedenborg's in this obscure experience.
Wow.
So, yeah, you talk about, I don't even know.
wait for it, people. You have not heard the rest of the story
Okay,
yet.
so we haven't even gotten to the point where there's communion. This isn't even funny yet, right? So then, okay, it's time for the service, and when you're in there, you're kind of committed to being there. You can't just get up and leave if you're uncomfortable. And there were some people in our group that were introverts and very uncomfortable, but it was so awkward that you just couldn't leave. But anyway, so the room was set up. There were all these pillows around the outside, and then in the middle, it was, and I love Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing games, but I swear that's what it felt like with these people coming out in their robes, and they had to say that it wasn't normal liturgy like I was used to during a worship service. It felt like a role-playing thing. So the whole point was there was this naked woman on the altar, and during the whole entire service, and then...
A naked woman on the altar. What church is this?
Of course you would say that.
Right? So then, and oh my gosh, and then they had these robes and they were saying all this stuff, and then you got in line, and then you got to the point where you actually took the elements known as the bread and wine, and you had to drink everything they poured in the cup for you, and some people got a little bit and some people got a lot, and some of our friends who aren't really big drinkers got the most funny thing too. So then... But you had to receive the communion from the naked person on the altar, and then go back and sit down, and then there was some more of the service.
What was the purpose of that?
Well, some people feel like the body is an altar, and there's all kinds of different theological statements about this.
I understand.
So
okay.
yes, so then anyway, that's a Gentile story, and it ends right there.
Let's explain what I
Was she
said.
pretty?
Scotty! That's what probably Mark's saying. Was she pretty?
I'm sure to people who are attracted to women, but...
Okay.
Anyways.
Guys.
Okay,
well,
if you watch the video,
lesbians with
you're
us.
going to notice that I have a green, like, little jacket on. And so Jen goes, oh, look, it matches my blankie. And so then she started to tell me about the blankie story of how it was on her altar. And I said something about, and she says, but I know I can't wear yellow green. I says, and she was referring to my jacket, and I said, well, what about that color?
Green,
yeah. And I pointed to her blankie, which is just a little bit more lighter. She goes, well, I don't wear blankies. And I said, and
out in public.
And then
which apparently this YouTube now is.
So I looked up and I said, I wasn't talking about that. And then I says, well, I can't remember what the next subject was.
Some people think your lap is an altar, is
Might
what
say that.
you said.
Some people may see your lap as an altar.
Oh,
Because it wasn't
And then
altar blankie.
and then the story.
Then she thought, oh my gosh, naked people. And so then that's how we got to where we are now. Yes. Yes,
so
Mark, we
you got
mentioned
communion.
it.
That's
Yeah, we got
interesting.
communion.
You missed the whole naked woman story, Mark? Where have you been?
You'll have to get the YouTube.
You'll have to watch the YouTube
Okay.
or listen to the Tin Deck archive.
It's
Okay.
Sleeps week, folks.
Now, the body, the earth, which is our physical body, the earth, terra firma, and all of that, we're all talking about how that's consciously got to change. If you're not changing, the inner world is going to create a hectic outer world. So you could have more earthquakes. So how does an earthquake represent, and the tsunamis represent in our body? And that's too much mucus, or our bones break, or there's too much pain. So as I was reading this email, which I don't even know if anybody's caught up with it yet, I'll have to listen to the archives, but the idea is this person knew their world. Hold on, we have to answer this.
What is the question?
I don't even know what the question is, but there's an answer.
Yeah, because I said to Mark, I said, what, you missed the naked women or something?
What did you say?
You see one.
You see them all.
You see one. You see most of them. All good in the dark and under the sheets.
Yes,
yeah,
naked women.
that's what
Yeah, good.
remember,
Yeah, my husband agrees, Mark.
No, it's just the stories I've heard from people over the years, yeah.
I don't look good under the sheets?
No, that is not
What?
what I'm talking about.
He just
I'm
said,
going
no,
back,
I don't look good under the sheets.
No, I'm going back 28 years when I worked at the plastics company. Remember I had the one foreman there, and he used to talk about things like that.
Oh.
Things like that.
And he didn't mind it. Yeah.
Sharing his story.
He said certain things just don't glow in the dark. Don't worry about it.
Unless you're wearing a glow in the dark condom.
Yes, that would glow in the dark.
Anyway, go on. Let's talk about.
Jen could tell us another
Oh,
another story.
boy, I
Another
never
horror
heard of-
story.
Never heard of such a thing as a glow in the dark.
I thought we got one.
No?
Oh, look at him. Okay.
Me? Who is
Oh,
this we?
stocking stuffers.
We don't
Who
need
is
them
this
anymore.
we?
Maybe we'll buy them for you.
You got that.
Change
from-
the subject, yes.
He's got his thumbs up with you. Okay. So the physical body can show up with aches and pains, which can represent the earth, which is like tornadoes and tsunamis. The mucus in the body can be too much waterlogged. There's all these different things, and when energy is built up in the body, the meridian's supposed to flow. All the meridians are supposed to flow, and when the meridian gets too much energy, it can feel pain. And when the energy is not enough in the body, it can feel pain. Sometimes you just don't know which one it is. Well, if it's too much, your body can't be overwhelmed and can't get ahead of it. So, as I was telling you the story, this person was explaining how they're being attacked. And as they started to explain a little bit further, they talked about chronic pain, they talked about loss of a partner, they talked about abusive relationships, scars, and how there's post-stress or post-traumatic stress disorder and anxiety and depression. And right now I'm feeling in the middle of my back a lot of pain. And I have to understand that this is... Okay, so before I go in a little further, this person said because of this, at the timing of how they got all of this stuff that happened, and then they had to defend themselves, they said, then all the trauma I have seen over the years came flat back like a bucket overflowing. I finally was nearly crushed. And it happened all at that one particular timing. Okay, they said they feel lost, they've lost everything, their career, their reputation, the person that they loved, and all of their interest.
They just feel like they've been thrown under the bus in different ways.
And of course this one trigger that created an event, domino effect, caused everything else to erupt again and come to the surface. And it's important to understand that the knowing that this person has is that they hate when people judge them. You can actually heal that and change that frequency. Now that one is going to be more of a bumper sticker. It's going to be the one that's going to be coverall. It's one that's there. It's like fear.
The feeling
Negativity,
judged.
the feeling judged. Anything to do with anger, any type of negativity will fall under fear. Judgment is the same way. Anything will fall under judgment. But it's healing the knowing. Like they said, they feel like they've been kicked around and all of these other things. They explain in detail in flowery words about how they know depression and pain. And then how they got out of it, and they couldn't resolve it in the way that we're talking about, but they did turn their life around, and they did use, and this is where it gets funny, or well, I don't say funny, but
Interesting.
when you start using non-conventional methods, you're forced to believe that allopathic medicine, this is the only way to go, and you shouldn't talk to a quackery person, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. And then when you go and set your sights on and saying, okay, I'm done with this medicine that's screwing me over, and speaking of medicine that screws you over, I had to take steroids in order for my lungs to open, so the steroids in my body relax the muscles. Well, it defeats the purpose when the steroids won't leave the frickin' body and relax the muscles that when I'm trying to exercise, I can't hold an alignment. And then when I try to exercise, my muscles are going, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm trying to defeat you. I need my strength back. But yet, I can make a homeopathic and pull out the steroids, but at this point, my lungs, I actually rely on something outside of itself until I can figure out what that hidden cause was that caused my lungs to shut down so long ago. But I'm not there yet, no big deal. This is where the problem comes, or this is where I said it's funny. As they begin to climb out of their hole and get out of pain, and get out of this, and get out of that, they're finding answers. They're finding a way to survive and then begin to thrive. And yet, all of a sudden when you have a step backwards, like, okay, I've been a medicine woman for over 20, well, not a medicine over 20 years, but I've been in this business for over 20 years. Why the hell do you have a back pain? You're a healer. You shouldn't have any at all. Well, I'm human, and they all represent something.
You also came to the planet to not only become medicine woman, but to understand as a master what this body thing means and to share that information.
Exactly, and there are other people that in the old days was that in order to be this great healer or teacher, they had to take on the pain, or their pain was part of the punishment. There's all these different belief systems that need to be weeded out. So this person changed their life around in this letter, and they explained how much things are better. And then this person says, well, your crap don't work. Look, you're still sick. And then kind of rub it in your face. It's like saying, okay, you took one shower, it doesn't work. Ah, too bad. You're never going to take another shower again? You know, you got to be shamed about that? Well, some people think that this healing is that, oh, it should have worked. I went one time. Seriously? You went one time. It's just like, oh, you know, I went to church one time. I'm completely safe for the rest of my life, you know, or however they think.
Correct.
And it's not even about that. There's much more than this. But they're looking for someone to blame. There's looking for someone to keep their crap. There's like, you know, and you need to
and reasonings.
Excuses and reasons, yes, and they will trip you every time. So I feel for when this person was writing all this. You know, because there is a passion and conviction when you're on your path of waking up and you have a story to tell. I know with all the stuff that happened to me, I actually can relate to people and help them understand, and so they can get out of those particular hells.
Well, it seems, I just got the idea, we talk about the jump rope all the time.
Yes.
Of when the two people on either end of the long jump rope are kind of swinging, and you can invite people to jump in, and you kind of have to find the rhythm to join in.
Yes.
The movement and that kind of thing. Otherwise, you just get smacked by it. And sometimes, I mean, and it's painful. I know when I'm experiencing the jump rope, you know, getting smacked by it, you know, it's just, I got to walk away from whatever I'm doing. And it hurts to watch other people that I know that's what's happening to them.
Exactly.
It you know, I have that sympathy and that compassion, because I know what it feels like, so I don't want others to have to feel that way.
Yes, and that is definitely true. So we're going to sum this letter up by saying there's a passion and conviction of this, like I said. This has been an ongoing throughout history, that if somebody has an experience that could help others, and they're meant to do this. But then you have the other side that says, well, you know you're not. And we have to get over the conflict within ourselves, because it is that, oh, the reason we project that person to say, oh, no, you're not supposed to do that, is because we're judging ourselves. We still have a decision that maybe we shouldn't, or I don't have the self-esteem that says I can. But the limited decisions and beliefs need to be resolved, or otherwise you get continued hells. Now, we're going to talk about something about pain and suffering, but was there anything going on in the chat room, anything particular that needs to be pointed out before we go into this next segment?
It might go back to what we were talking about.
Naked women?
Yeah.
Okay. And was there a comment for Scott?
Yes.
Okay, so go for it.
Okay, so, it starts with long time ago in a galaxy or universe far, far away, or something that, yada, 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 the Big Bang happened, and that's how, got all the kids that happened. Anyway, so that's how all the kids happened, and I kind of typed, but I did. For some, the Big Bang happens repeatedly, teehee. This person said, make hum.
Hum. Yes, we said H-U-M.
Mm-hmm. Mark that as he's standing corrected. Octarine sent you a link somewhere. The missing link is right in front of us. It's women, but no one will touch that. What are your thoughts, Scott?
What do you mean?
So Octarine sent you a link. I don't know what kind of links they don't tell you what it is.
Not near a computer right now.
Can you click it?
No, it's not.
Maybe she messaged me or something.
Yeah. Well, darn it.
We'll
okay,
ask her.
Octarine didn't show up, so maybe you want to send it in a Facebook private message. But then Mark took advantage of that and just twisted around and said, the missing link is right in front of us. What do you think about that, Scott? And sometimes I still think he doesn't understand what you're talking about.
Who doesn't understand what?
You don't understand that there's a missing, or because it's a joke of the missing link. You men all have this, you don't lose your man card, so you better keep your mouth shut.
I'm not saying anything.
No, there's some camaraderie in the men's sector here.
We have our secret code language.
Yeah, I sent, not a big deal. Okay, it's on Facebook.
Alright, so you'll get it when you get back.
And Kimberly says, I missed the naked woman thing.
How did you miss that? Jen was talking about the naked woman on the altar. Oh, you'll have to just watch the videos.
You watch the YouTube, so you'll get
Jen
it.
went to a naked church one time.
Not everybody was.
No, she went naked. No, she didn't. Stand corrected. There was a woman on the altar that was naked. And the temple is very important. It was part of that communion, and the woman had to pass the stuff out naked, and so you could have your communion. And anyway, we'll take this break. We'll come right back. The right or answering this email or doing this by.
Stay tuned next week.
No, I'll never remember.
Right.
Okay, so we
there's
talked about the body falling apart. We talked about the earth quakes and everything else. And did you notice the sand quake when there was I can't remember the Richter scale, 6 point something.
Oh, the beautiful flower.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I saw the pattern it created by the. Yeah.
And it makes perfect sense if the earth is going to be developing and showing you that it's a good thing that these earthquakes are happening. It's just like the pattern and frequency of the words we say in messages in water. If they're negative, then they're not going to create a healthy pattern. But if they're positive, they are going to create a healthy pattern. And so when this sand started to shake with the earthquake, it developed in a beautiful pattern, a little desert rose type thing, and with waves going out from it. But it was really cool. But if you look overall, it looks like an eye. Going back to the body.
Right. So there was all this stuff in the email about this situation, that kind of thing, and then some pains were mentioned.
Yeah, they explained in pain that chronic pain means that it has not been just off and on. It is a continuous thing. And your body wants to take care of it. It can't do it by itself anymore. That means the energy is probably built up so greatly that the pain has become so overwhelming that you can't get ahead of it. So one of my teachers so many years ago said that the pain tolerance is so high with certain people because they haven't been able to process. And I didn't know what that meant until I got older, because she wasn't talking in the same way I was. She was talking about how people put up with stuff. Mm-hmm. So we have pain tolerance. We have a whole book that talks about pain, but I'm going to talk about pain tolerance. High pain tolerance is the machine. They're intensely determined not to be done in or to be overcome by any form of vulnerability or weakness. Now, if you read that letter, that's the whole thing. They were not confronted. They weren't directly, so they became vulnerable. And so because they couldn't address them directly, they had to write a letter publicly, or they had to do certain things so that people could get the point across that, you know what, I'm not going to put up with this, you know. So like I said, they are intensely determined not to be done in or to be overcome by any form of vulnerability or weakness. And I would say that's probably like a lot of people. It is a matter of life and death to them. Again, this is pain tolerance, high pain tolerance. This pattern arose out of their feeling utterly alone on their own, and that's exactly what the letter felt like. Or they're feeling they were the buck stops here person in their family due to their being regarded as the inconvenience and or as the family hoist that holds up the whole system, like the car repair garage rack, meaning they have to do it all. And if you read the letter, that's kind of what the person was feeling. Okay, and since
do it all.
Exactly. Another part says, "What? Me worried? No. They are severely denially dominated and reality avoidant as a result of having grown up in a family in which they were massively demanded and enforced." Now, in some cases, it isn't. No, I'm not going to worry about it. It is learning how to overcome, to achieve. It is learning to suppress and withhold. That it's not that you're in denial as much as that was the only tool that you had to process this particular thing that was going on in your world. So sometimes when people hear denial dominated, no, I'm not in denial, and it's not. No, because they consciously are fully aware of everything. But what this also means, again, like I just said, was that this is one way we learned how to process it, was to overcome and to achieve and say, oh hell, I'm so done with it. And it becomes a suppression that your body says, well, I have to store it over here. Okay? Most people in this, like I said in this letter, it's a high pain tolerance. Let's see what else I can find. Shock, because the book doesn't really point out post-stress or post-PTSD. And what I was thinking of is that if, I know Octarine has this book too, if she happens to find it, that would be great. Tell me what page it's on, because I can't seem to find it. But
The PTSD.
yeah.
Post-traumatic stress disorder. Yeah, we were looking for it in this book.
Yeah, and I couldn't find it. In the book that I'm talking about, Octarina's Messages from the Body by Michael J. Lincoln. So I went and we looked for a shock reaction. And I'm out of here. They're into complete overwhelm and overload. It is too much to handle. Okay? And that's usually what happens that first moment when you're thrown off your center. You're in shock. Their system just can't take any more traumas. They simply can't cope with any more negativity in their life. While this particular participant event is in the system overload, there is still a component to their reaction which reflects an underlying experience of their trauma being the straw that broke the camel's back. It is a result of their having been routinely traumatized in a severely dysfunctional family subsequently as well. And when a person happens to have that pain and suffering, they will go into different ways to get rid of it, and sometimes they're going to find out where they're needed, and they will end up joining the Army or doing something that puts them in harm's way, you know, firefighters, all of these things. It gives them that strength and backbone because they've already experienced to some degree, but it just, one end piles on top of another and it tops another, and I'm not reading that chat room.
Correct.
So,
but that's the thing is that for some, oh, I can handle an emergency situation. I'm good in stress. I can do this. I can overcome.
but their body don't know what to do with it afterwards.
Exactly.
They fall apart.
They got it. It's almost to some degree their adrenaline system runs, and they know how to operate from that mode.
Well, it's just like I told you when we were talking about the doctors and the nurses. You have to be short, direct, get it done. There's no room for anything. And I have learned that when I'm in my stress mode, I'm not looking over there, but the energy on that page makes me want to laugh. Thank you, Jen. So, but what happens is that you know that you're in stress, you know that you have to take care of it, you know there's only a few seconds, so you have to zero in, and that's how you can overcome in the stress mode. But again, there is a fallout for not being able to process any of the chemical peptides that had built up from, oh my God!
Well, then you start attracting those situations in your life, and then it's one of those situations, oh my gosh, my life is so drama. Everybody just comes over and does this all the time. My life is so drama. And it's so full of, because
There's drama on my chat room wall. That's what I see.
Exactly. So the people continue to look for these situations in life because that's all they know and that's all they can handle.
Alright, so we'll pull from that. Okay, so anyways, this person had said they had high tolerance and all of this, and they even created abusive relationships. The reason you would have abusive relationship is because that's all you know. I grew up knowing that it's okay if your kids are beaten. Nobody's going to be there to save you. It's okay that this is happening, and you just have to deal with that, and this is what you're supposed to act
other
like.
Adults could do that to their kids, because that's just how everybody raised their kids, and
Yeah.
you expect that they're going to be there. That's what's going to happen if you send your kid down the street, because everybody does it.
You know, and one parent from the next parent to the next, they always want the child to be better, have better lives than you have, and we've even come to this day and age where the beatings are not there. And then I saw a meme that says, well, this is what's needed, which is a whooping and an ass whooping, and so severely that then you won't have gangs and all this. You know what? Sometimes that's what caused people to be in the streets is because of all this violence.
And that's all they know.
And there are, you know, there's no way to process. That's why there's gangs in the street. I can tell you that. Something threw them off to the point where maybe they weren't receiving any love. Maybe there wasn't abuse except for not receiving those primal needs in that moment when they needed it.
Exactly, and they have to go prove themselves somewhere.
And be wanted and accepted and, oh, somebody gets me. You know, and so I still don't believe that beatings they are a must, but if you do it, that's your choice. It's part of your consciousness, but we're talking about how do we physical symptoms create a consciousness shift. And if you don't understand how to create that consciousness shift by using healing tools, then you will be stuck with the consequences of what's happening. For instance, this person had wrote that they had a stroke, and they overcome it. And they overcome it. Okay, overcame it, whatever. But it's decreased blood flow to that part of the brain, usually due to a burst of blood vessel in the brain. Now, what's amazing about this is that it says there's servaholics. There's a servitude that was on the planet, which is still here, but not as greatly like it was. And the servitude was where you had to serve regardless. It was how Jesus had to serve God. It was the way that, if you look at all the disciples, the one that had to turn Jesus in, he was doing a servitude too. Sometimes there are things that you know that you have to do, because I'm sorry, they were initiates. They weren't no plain folk that were doing this. And I don't care how much they want to say that these people were like this, but there was a set requirement in servitude that you had to play out in order for bigger things to happen. There's more to servitude, but in this case, servaholic, they tend to become engaged in compulsive and codependent compassion, and to become involved in taking on the problems of the world in an unsung hero or heroine pattern. Then they get burned out and resentfully burned up about the lack of recognition and the support in their lives. Now, that's for some people, okay? Now they have finally reached the point where they feel overwhelmed with the requirement of life, and they are giving up. They are in effect trying to put an end to it all. It is a result of being the family hoist and severely dysfunctional, exploitive, and self-immersed family. I've known several people that have had strokes because they just wanted out of here. They're done. How can I get out of here? And it's a checkout point. A stroke is a checkout point, real quick. You know, and sometimes people don't have them as a way to get out. It's like, you know, crap. One person that had a stroke should have killed almost all of their brain, still came back to life because their partner was, you can't die yet! I'm not ready! Because there was a pact with the two souls that says they're supposed to leave the planet at the same time. So the other one had to come back and say, okay, fine, but was really destroyed because the intensity of how everybody broke down into the other person to get ready. Now there's intense bitterness. They have a narrowed, constricted, and compressed flow of love, energy in their life, meaning they can't let the love in because the heart walls are too thick. Or it's a result of the subconscious death wish that leads to the rejecting life at the deep level. They don't want to do it anymore. They have a no one cares attitude, and that's exactly what the letter is. No one cares attitude, and an intense resistance of people and things. Get away from me. They reject the life, or they reject, because they're constantly getting shit upon. I would reject that life too. But you can heal it so you can actually create a better life. And they would rather die than change. Again, they probably don't want to do that. They don't want to change. They like who they are. Mm-hmm. They're, with the old way of life, of using convention medicine and all this, is either do or die. And finally the force was, okay, I'm not going to do it that way, I'm going to turn to alternative medicine and do this, which is a way to survive. But go a little bit further and to tap out and heal how you know these things would be even better. Says they are in effect viciously violent towards themselves in their attitudes and their behavior. They're the product of authoritarian, condemning, and intensely judgmental family. Again, this person said in the letter that they have people that are constantly judging them.
And condemning, and
yeah.
So then that would create that unrequited love to some degree.
Exactly. And the authoritarian, they probably created shame to create the humiliation to get you to obey.
Right, and then where are the primal needs being met in that kind of family?
And it feels like that this person has had that issue right from the start. And when that particular stuff happens, here, it literally can destroy you. And again, knowing how you know these things, you can get back to the source. People say, well, how can you get back to the day that happened? Well, we went back to where you were 6 months old and where you shut down. And your parents weren't bad. It's just there was programs. You shut down. You couldn't bond.
Right. So I had a twin in the womb with me that decided to leave, to not be born, and the remnant of that energy left at 6 months, when I was 6 months out, on the planet, 6 months old. And my mom says she remembers there was a time where she said, no matter how much love I wanted to give to you, I could tell you weren't taking it in.
Exactly. And what I just, if the person that's listening to this, it goes back to when they were in the womb. They were rejected at about 5 months old, and I asked if it was a twin thing. They said no. They just knew that they weren't wanted right from the start. And in that bonding that happens in the womb was unable to take place So you're always fighting and scrambling, and I'm trying to figure out, is it both parents? It was just the mother to some degree. So that's interesting. Anything, so if I was gonna help this person, we'd have to wait till you get through the upsetness, because it's so fresh and there's too many and so overwhelmed. This is when you are actually looking for hope. And then hope looks at you and you want to flip off hope, because it's like, where the hell were you when I needed you? And here it is, hope is right there, but we have been taught never to see the light of hope, that you are just teasing me. You're sitting there and you're mocking me. That's what you're doing, Hope, and Hope's not doing that. Hope is really reaching out saying, here you go, and we can help you. And then hope has to wait until you get burnout and like all the other candles of life, faith and love start to get burned out, and then you'll then reach for that candle of hope, because you're done fighting, you're done being in that space. I have people sometimes will call in, and I can tell that they're desperate because they want that hope. Well, we have to go, and we appreciate you all coming here, so what do we all want to say?
Good evening.
Thank you
Yes,
for
thank you.
listening.
And we'll be back on Friday from 5 to 7, and hope to see you then. All right, remember the telesummit on Thursday. Bye.
Bye.